future. There was that memorable line the president talked about, the agency that focuses on salmon when it's in freshwater, and salmon when it's in saltwater is a different agency. There might be another agency for smoked salmon. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
Well, this is about creating collaboration and coordination across agencies to help us change the way government does business. And I want to talk about 3 examples of that. And I particularly want to recognize all of my colleagues here. You've put together a remarkable, remarkable team. It's been just a great pleasure working with them on this, this endeavor. And I also want to say, it's not just about collaborating among federal agencies. It's also about creating a new relationship between federal government and local government, and also federal government and the private sector. So the first example I want to talk about, over the last 2 years with my colleague Steve Chu, HUD has partnered with the Department of Energy to coordinate $5 billion in Recovery Act funds to weatherize homes and help American families reduce their energy costs. It's a key part of our goal to out-innovate our competitors around the world by building a new green economy. But historically, only 8% of weatherization funds have reached multifamily apartments for low-income renters, even though they make up, low-income renters make up a far larger share of all low-income people in this country. And about 1/3 of those apartments that we've reached before were subsidized directly by HUD. Thanks to the collaboration we had with Department of Energy, we are about to double that number to reach, with this funding, 20% of the 600,000 homes this program will weatherize by March 2012 will be multifamily apartments. How did we do that? In a number of ways, but most simply, what we found out when we looked at this is that we went in and measured the incomes of families living in these apartments every year, and then Steve's team would have to go in and measure the incomes to give them the grant. We said, hey, why don't we just do it once? Make it faster, make it simpler, and that's been a key thing that's led to getting this number from 8% to 20% already. And the best thing about this is that HUD spends about $1 billion a year on utilities in these apartments. And when you invest in weatherization, typically in 3 to 5 years, you pay back the investment that you make up front through savings in utilities. So this collaboration isn't just about getting to the right people faster, it's also about saving us money. Second example I want to give is not only about collaborating with federal agencies, but also with local government. We created in the Recovery Act a new, innovative, flexible tool called Homeless Prevention and Rapid Rehousing. And this new initiative has already helped us, with our local partners, prevent or end homelessness for more than 875,000 people around the country. And what's remarkable about this is the way it's changed our approach to homelessness. Just as you heard Earl Devaney talk about preventing fraud, well, it turns out it's much more cost-effective and better for the people we help to prevent homelessness before it happens, rather than to wait for them to end up in a shelter. And so we've done that with local government. We surveyed recently, 2/3 of mayors around the country said that this program alone had fundamentally changed their approach to homelessness. It's been particularly effective, as you know, Mr. Vice President. Dr. Biden has been very involved with us in our fight to end veterans' homelessness. It's a national tragedy that veterans are 60% more likely than the average American to be homeless. And one of our great tools to do this is something we're doing in very close collaboration with the Department of Veterans Affairs. We call it HUD VASH, or Veterans Affairs Supportive Housing. It combines our vouchers, Section 8 vouchers, with VA's case management and clinical services. And this partnership, we knew when we came in at the beginning of the Recovery Act, was critical to ending veterans' homelessness. But at the time we started the Recovery Act, only 1,200 veterans around the country were benefiting. And one of the reasons, as we dug into this with VA, we found was that our rules were too rigid. We paid for rent, they paid for case management and other services, but oftentimes what stood between a veteran remaining in a shelter or getting housed was something as simple as a security deposit for an apartment. And because of the flexibility of our tool with our Homeless Prevention and Rapid Rehousing program, we were able to help those veterans get into apartments quickly and to end their homelessness. And today I'm happy to report to you that with this work that we've done together, There are nearly 20 times more veterans being housed today through this program, or 21,000 veterans that have homes today, thanks to the work that we've done with VA. And with a population, we just finished our first ever national survey, detailed survey of the number of homeless veterans. That number is under 100,000. And so when you reach 21,000 already, we're well on our way to meeting the President's goal of ending veterans' homelessness in 5 years. The third example I want to give is an example not just of working with federal agencies, but also working with the private sector and the nonprofits. One of our Recovery Act programs, the Neighborhood Stabilization Program, we distributed through a competition, and it's intended to help local communities hit by foreclosures renovate and resell those homes so they don't keep dragging down everyone else's property values in neighborhoods with high rates of foreclosure. What we found, however, with all of our different grantees, when they were trying to approach servicers individually, we had servicers who said, we can't negotiate agreements with thousands of localities around the country. And what grantees were finding is there might be 8 or 10 different servicers on any block that they were trying to fix up. And if they couldn't get all the properties on that block, they weren't going to have the impact that they needed to have. So we joined with 5 national nonprofits. We signed up all the major financial institutions that account for 75% of all the foreclosures in the country, and made a deal to get a first look, we call it, for our grantees, a 12 to 14-day period where they're the only ones that could bid on it. And what we found is that 188 properties have been, in the first year of this partnership, able to not only access thousands of properties, but because of the time and the efficiency that we've gained in this process, they've saved $26 million in taxpayer funds, an average discount on those houses of 13% because they sell faster and more effectively. With us at the table, with our partnership with these groups in the private sector, we have been able to make a big dent to the point where we are seeing many neighborhoods with 50 to 75% reductions in vacancy rates that were suffering desperately just 2 years ago. Those are 3 examples of the collaboration. There are many more that all of my colleagues I know could give you as well, Mr. Vice President. But because of your leadership on this, I think we have shown the way to that reformed government that will help us win the future that the President talked about in the State of the Union.
Thanks.